Right. Yeah, whatever.
What's good, everybody? It's your boys Wes and Justin back with another edition of Pro Talk. Uh, this week we mainly gonna be discussing the NFL. Me and Justin already been kind of going back and forth with some topics going on, but so far we go review week week two of the NFL, then we gonna get y'all predictions of what's going on in week three, and then after that we pretty much just gonna free talk about what's going on this season, what's I thought about some players, and just keep going forward. But since before we started recording, we was already on the topic of Kansas City Chiefs. We might as well get into the prime time game of the Baltimore Ravens and the Chiefs and that result. And Justin, you already know I got a lot to say about, Lamar Jackson performance, the Ravens, and all the people been talking, but I'm gonna let him go into his spiel about what he think about the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
All right, so anyone that knows me knows I loathe Kansas City for many reasons. It's the fans, it's the culture from like 2 decades ago with Herm Edwards. It's anything you can possibly think of. I'm not a Patrick Mahomes hater, right? I'm not.
I don't know.
I don't. Okay, I don't see myself as a Mahomes hater. But here's the thing. Okay, so here's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about, the Kansas City offense and what's happened. And we talked about, okay, when Alex Smith was there, defenses could play closer to the line of scrimmage. I said, this is how Travis Kelce really became like one of the best tight ends because he had 3 guys trying to tackle him once he caught the ball.
Okay, but don't
running game.
You also said you don't know if Patrick Mahomes is elite. Don't leave that part out.
No, I'm getting to that part.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, you got this offensive line with Eric Fisher. The right tackle is solid. The interior is good. And you got a pretty good running game. Like Chardavius Ward was a running back at some point, I read, and they were still winning. The problem was they couldn't take that extra step. Okay, so that's where Mahomes comes into play here. So, you got Mahomes, you got Kareem Hunt, which I think is one of the big names because when he wasn't, deep throwing to Tyreek Hill or down the field, Kareem Hunt would chew up those yards. So the offense became really unstoppable really quickly because no one had any idea what was going on. And so it became keep them off the field, run the ball at the defense. And then the Chiefs were like, okay, let's close up games. And that's how they win that Super Bowl. So the question is, to me, it's not that this loss is so much the Ravens winning, and the Ravens do win that game because of the defense. But the Chiefs have looked like this since November of last year. And a lot of people aren't jumping on Mahomes like they would be Lamar Jackson if he was in that situation. Okay, so here's what I'm basically going to say. Like, because I've been leading up to this. This Chiefs offense is not the same when he came in. And you can really tell that with the running game, especially. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is really piqued interest into why has he not stepped up and played like the late first round pick that he was when Mahomes vouched for him and Brett Veach drafted him. Okay, so that's a reason for concern why they haven't. And then you have, the offensive line issues. And yes, Mahomes, like, he's still been able to go down the field. My thing has been, I don't know if he is elite, not so because he puts up these numbers. How can he make some of these receivers? How can he make, even a pass catching running back play better than he has already? And I think because Mahomes he had that great core around him. And it's like now they're playing close games. Yeah, they can win or lose in like the fourth quarter. But it's not the same as when he came in. It's like we're starting to see in some aspects how he really plays. Because you don't have as many pieces around him as when he came in. And let's be honest, Wes, some teams have already adjusted to it. Like some teams have had to adapt to how they play him. Last year, we've even seen that with the Chargers a bit, who they play this upcoming week.
Okay, well, for one, I mean, the Chargers is a divisional matchup team, who's a team, that you see 2 times a year. So I would hope that they would be able to, adjust to Patrick Mahomes and everything. But you say he's not making receivers. Okay, let's look at the box score from that game, bro. B. Pringle had 2 catches, 63 yards, touchdown. M. Hardman, 5 catches, 55 yards. D. Robinson, 3 catches, 46 yards. Ryan Bell, 1 catch, 20 yards. Tyreek Hill, he only had 3 catches, 14 yards. Then McKinnon, 14, and Burton all had each 1 catch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 9 different players catching the ball, and 3 of them scoring, and one of them not even Tyreek Hill. So how are you not making the most out of his receivers if you're spreading the ball to everybody on the field?
See, that's a valid point, and I'll give you that one because I do like Robinson. I think Harbin's a pretty good addition too. We know what Hill and Kelsey bring to the table. That's not a doubt either.
Right.
I want us to look outside these stats, right?
Okay.
To actually see, like, okay, let's go to the second half of that game. Because we know, okay, part of the reason like that game was as close as it was because Lamar threw a pick six. He threw 2 interceptions to Tyrann Matthew that whole game.
Too early, yeah.
Yeah, that was real early. But if we look at the second half of that game, we start to realize, like, I said the whole thing about the Raiders, and you said, the Raiders and Chargers, they're in the division. Ravens aren't in the division. They've been playing them at least once every year in the past 2 or 3 years. But the Ravens somehow, with no Matt Judon since he left in the offseason, was able to clamp down on that offense and did more, I think, than they did on last year's Monday night game than they were able to do. Or no, they did more than last year's Monday night game and were able to make sure that Kansas City committed either more mistakes or they didn't finish drives or anything like that. And the question is, why is this the case? Like, why? And people have been saying, well, they've been asking the wrong question is, okay, well, why isn't Kansas City blowing more teams out like we thought? The actual question should be, why aren't the Chiefs adapting to what certain NFL defenses are doing? And I think this really came to a head in the Super Bowl. I know we talked about it, and I said this was something that they were teetering on the edge of. Now, yes, they had a backup offensive line, but someone made a really good point and said Mahomes struggles to read zone coverage. And I'm wondering if a lot of defenses are taking not just a page out of the Buccaneers book, but some of these other teams' books like Cleveland and saying, okay, well, we'll just play zone. Or we'll play like a certain type way with our secondary. And we're just going to move through this. The only team that hasn't is Buffalo. And Buffalo was like, okay, let's get into a track race with their wide receivers. And that's how Kansas City won double digits.
Well, I mean, we can say this all we want, but until Kansas City started really losing games, first off, we only in week 2, and the Ravens were overdue for a win against Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, let's be honest, they lost the last 3 matchups, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Ava Rep was guarding Tyreek Hill very well. They had another safety over top on him. They was able to pretty much take him outside the game. Also, we look at the time of possession for both teams. The Ravens won that game off time of possession. Let's be real. The defense was coming in clutch, but the Ravens were taking really good care after those 2 picks. Lamar Jackson going 15 and 19, and he has over 107 rushing yards alone. That's just him. And then you got T. Williams rushing in for 77. You got Latavius Murray. That rushing attack was running all up through the Kansas City defense. And that defensive line is not looking good at all against the run. To be straight up like that. I mean, Ravens, they was able to pretty much dominate them the whole game at the line of scrimmage. And like you said, I mean, I understand about the whole, if Patrick Mahomes would have lost that game, they would have been, if Lamar Jackson would have lost, they would have been ragging on him. I'm with you on that one because I don't see enough people giving Lamar Jackson his credit as much as going into the game. They just talked about how much he had to win. If he doesn't win this game, then he doesn't, he showed he can't win big games, this and that. And now it's like, oh yeah, congratulations, you won. Now let's move on. They haven't won the Super Bowl yet. You see how the narrative changed on that.
You know what pisses me off about that narrative too is the fact that, there was a massive circle jerk in that Super Bowl over Mahomes throwing an incomplete pass.
Exactly.
Like, first off, I think it's funny because he got his ass whooped and that's all you got to show for it. Like, I'm sorry. It's funny to me. But Lamar Jackson had probably one of the best touchdown throws we're going to see the whole year. And it's, not a bad throw for a running back. Or it's some type of joke. Like, if you don't like someone like Lamar Jackson playing at the quarterback position, and if you, whatever you think I mean by this, yes, it's exactly what I mean by this. But you're somehow, fighting tooth and nail to make sure nothing affects Patrick Mahomes' legacy like you did for Peyton Manning, then I got news for you. We're going to keep talking about this because it's on film. That's the thing. If it's on film and there are flaws or there's a good amount of success, we're going to be talking about it. Like, I don't hate Mahomes. I think one of the coolest things that he does is the no-look pass, or how he threw with his left hand against the Denver Broncos, because you don't see things like that. See, those are attributes that I'm like, okay, this is how high this dude's ceiling can go. The problem is we haven't really seen him, I don't want to say take the whole offense and say, here, damn, we're going to score by any means necessary.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot.
I'm saying, like, we haven't seen him with less talented players than he's been surrounded with until now, to a certain degree. And it's like, this is why, to some degree, Kansas City has not been blowing teams out much more. Like, it's okay to admit that despite some of these weapons at times, he just hasn't performed well with teams that have seen him multiple times. That's okay.
It's only been 2 weeks.
Exactly. And that's fine too. But you go back and realize, like, okay, these past 2 weeks, is this an anomaly? And then you go back to last season and realize, no, they were kind of struggling with this before.
I mean, yeah, but they was 14-2.
Yeah, and 14-2 is a pretty good record. Don't get me wrong. What is it we talk about, like, when we're in the playoffs, Wesley? It's who is hot, who is, like, fixed all those things going into the postseason. Like, let's be honest, if Seattle isn't doing well at something, I'm concerned going into the postseason.
Right.
Now, Derrick Henry, he's like the real life version of X-Men's Juggernaut. You give that man any sort of motion, he's just going to bowl you over, as we found out this past Sunday.
Yeah.
You're not going to be facing Derrick Henry every week. But let's say, for example, the Titans aren't doing well with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Like they did in week 1. Like, let's say they got blown out again against Seattle. And we can say, okay, we can go back to last season too. Derrick Henry didn't show up in the playoffs. Derrick Henry probably didn't show up against a couple other teams, even though he had 2,000 yards rushing. It's like, it would be the same exact thing as that. It's like, yeah, they won. They made it to the playoffs. But 2 or 3 games in a row, dating back to last year, we're seeing the same thing. Have some teams caught on? As some teams have the personnel to actually adapt in this field versus other teams who have yet to face it?
Well, on that, yeah, and I just want to say I can't really answer that because it pretty much still remains to be seen. We still got a whole season left on that. All I got to say is I'm worried about, if I'm on Kansas City, I'm worried about their defense, mainly their run defense, because it looked like, you could pretty much run and wheel against them. And as far as it goes with the play calling on offense, the only thing I like to see for them is quicker dig and dunk plays, showing that they can adapt to the deep ball being taken away from them. On the other side, Baltimore, look, for everything that they've been through, losing Marcus Peters, losing all their running backs, besides that late miracle loss to the Raiders, in overtime, which was crazy. You know, Lamar losing the fumble. If you don't lose that fumble, let's be honest, they most likely win that game. But yeah, I mean, Baltimore's looking good overall. So I mean, Lamar,
Yeah, okay.
he's in the zone as far as anything, and then being the Chiefs just gonna up his confidence even more. Their defense looking like, I'm not gonna lie, Humphrey sometimes he give me a little bit of pause because I see him give up on a lot of plays, but their defense seem to be holding up well. As long as they can keep controlling the ball with that run game, I don't see them lose with too many teams this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish up with Casey on my end first, just like you did. So I'm gonna say, let's say Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't fumble that ball and they're 2-0. I mean, they should have lost that game against the Browns. They should have. The crap that punter did, he should have been cut after that game. I'm sorry. That whole special team should be cussed out. So it should be still 1-1. I think with the run defense in particular, it'll get better. I like Jaron Reed. He was in Seattle. He's a really good run stuffer. I think their concern has been they've been wanting to rush the quarterback so much. They haven't played the run. And I think there was a time in the year, especially in October and November, where the run defense of a terrible team or a team that just doesn't look like it's in sync yet defensive front wise starts to play a lot better. My concern would be with that secondary because outside of Tyrann Mathieu, they can't cover anyone past 10 yards without holding. And it is going to get called again at some point. I don't know who the ref is going to be that does it, but I know that it will get called sometime in a pivotal game that the Chiefs should have. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, with Baltimore's side, offensively, the number one wide receiver that they drafted should be coming back, I think, this week or something. They play Detroit, so I don't think that's going to be much of a concern. They're just going to run the ball. There are some games where it's like, well, fuck it, we can just run the ball all we want, and no one's going to stop us. And I think that'll be all right. But for the foreseeable future, I want to see how that passing game does go. If Lamar is going to be, like you said, is he going to quit on any plays? Is he just going to be like, you know what, screw it, I'll run it myself? Will the option of two really good receivers actually help him? Because we know Hollywood Brown is a good number 2 at least.
Yeah. What I mainly meant on the giving, I was actually referring to Marlon Humphreys on the defensive side. I see he gave up on some deep balls. On offense, yeah, I'm being honest, I think they're gonna be their number 1 pick because Sammy Watkins, he's gonna make some plays throughout the year for sure, but he's not gonna be that go-to guy you can rely on to always be there to make that play. As we saw with the Chiefs, he had that drop on the key first down conversion. But just a week before, he had that big long deep ball catch against the Raiders, which put them in the red zone to be able to score. So Sammy Watkins is that guy that he gonna surprise you, maybe in a big moment when you need him most, but he not gonna be that person where you think, yeah, I could go to him every other play, So I'm interested in the attack as well.
So one of the things I would think about for the defense is, you had guys from the practice squad coming up. I mean, it was made fun of that they lost to a practice squad defense, but some of those guys are on the practice squad. And I know some of these injuries are going to be year-long, like for Marcus Peters and his ACL. But it's I think a lot of these guys that have been promoted because of these injuries have a good case for probably keeping their jobs next year, receiving a payday in the offseason. I think, believe it or not, if they play this good throughout the rest of the year, this could actually be a good problem for the Ravens. They got to decide, okay, should we trade Peters, like free up some cap space to re-sign some of these guys? Do we, try and make some extra moves to like bring in some more weapons on the offensive line? Like, what would be a good idea? I just hope it stays like this for the rest of the year. And fortunately, I mean, we're going to talk about the other teams in the division too. Two teams they may sweep in the division this year. So I feel like, Baltimore's actually in a good spot. And I do think, believe it or not, Lamar Jackson having that confidence, because, he was stating that whole 4th down thing in Seattle too. yeah, like when he was talking about that whole fourth down scenario 2 years ago in Seattle, and I was like, oh shit, I remember the run he went on after that one. And I
Exactly.
feel like I
MVP.
feel like we're gonna see a lot of really good Lamar Jackson like we saw in 2019, but with the passing game too. It won't be just the run.
Yeah. I think that run pass option play is gonna be real lethal for the Ravens throughout the rest of the year, bro.
Oh, for sure.
Speaking of, I mean, since we on the AFC North already, let's see who else played last night. Steelers went toe to toe with the Raiders. I wasn't able to catch that. I don't know who it was, but Raiders 20.
Yeah, I was able to catch that. So if you had an NFL Sunday ticket last week, you were pretty much fucked in the early games. The reason for that was because they blacked out, or at least the ones in my area did. So we only got the Bears Bengals game. I know, not good, but we did get to see a certain star come out, and the Raiders and the Steelers game. And I'm going to go two different angles here, Wes. I'm going to say the Raiders look really good on offense. Josh Jacobs is going to be out for a few more weeks. The Steelers knew about what offense they were going to get. Kenyon Drake and Peyton Barber. They're not on the same skill level as Josh Jacobs is. Let's be honest.
Oh no.
And the Raiders threw that ball. They nullified all the pass rush, and they were in constant command in the second half. I would say if I'm the Steelers, they were in my losers for the week because first off, TJ Watt went out with an injury.
Man.
And when that first half, it was like 9-6. Like that was the score. And then you start to see, touchdowns being scored on both sides. And they didn't there was only one other player that really sacked Derek Carr outside of TJ Watt, and that was Melvin Ingram III. The offense looks like the offense of Big Ben, and he looks like he needs to retire. But that defense, I would say, if there is a concern for the Steelers, it is that defense without TJ Watt. Because you lost Bud Dupree in free agency. TJ Watt is injured for a couple of weeks. By the way, they got to face Denver and Seattle the next 2 or 3 weeks. So they're when they get Cincinnati this week. So they're kind of in the category of this Cincinnati game is a must win because they don't know how long TJ Watt's going to be out before the bye week. So I would say this is a team where, drafting a quarterback should have been a need.
Yeah, man. I think it also has to do with the fact that nobody was able to really emerge at that clear-cut number one receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster, he still hasn't really taken that role since Antonio Brown left. Chris Claypool, he's still solid, but he still hasn't really making that big next leap. I mean, they got some other weapons too, but they don't really have that guy that Big Ben, as a veteran quarterback, would need, can just go to when the going gets too tough for him in that pocket to look at and just, throw up some prayers or just put it in the spot where his guy can go get it. They don't really have that guy on offense. And on defense, like you said, they just lost their anchor. They lost some dudes in free agency. Now they're looking at the tough, 4-week skid. Got a divisional opponent. Got, Seattle and a couple other tough teams. They're looking like they're about to fall into a hole. And with Cleveland looking as good as they are, going toe to toe with the AFC champs, coming up with a win, week 2. And then you got the Ravens, although they lost that close game to the Ravens, y'all also just got beat by the Ravens. And the Ravens just got a big win over the Chiefs, and now they on riding so high. So, the AFC North is not an easy, spot to make yourself known as far as getting to the playoffs. So, yeah, I think Steelers for trouble.
All right, I want to be consistent, because everyone's gonna say I have Chief slander and everything. So let's bring up let's this is gonna be like the mystery conversation of the AFC West. Do the Raiders keep this success going throughout this year? Like they started 2-0, they look great, but they looked great last year when they started off. Do you think they maintain it and maybe get a playoff spot, or do you think it's gonna tail off near the end again?
I mean, I don't know, man. They just be two playoff teams. One, although, being the Steelers deal with injuries and some missing people free agents, but they looking like they're riding some confidence, man. They're looking like they fighting in games all the way to the end. And they're gonna play just about every single team tough. You got the Dolphins next week. That's a winnable game. I mean, they got a pretty favorable schedule, and I think they can, pull off some good wins. So they got us. They got the Bears, Eagles, Giants. I mean, they playing the NFC East this year and the NFC North. Well, just a couple teams in the NFC North. But yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders can make a push. I think it's in their favor to do so.
I'll be honest, I don't see that happening. I think they have a tailspin like they did last year. And I don't know what tells me that. No, I haven't even looked at the second half of their schedule, but something tells me, one thing that I never, or I try not to take seriously, is a first week of the season for some of these teams.
Yeah.
And I know that people are like, well, why are you criticizing such and such team? That's because there was a pattern last year. I'm not saying like that they're, I hate them or anything. We knew there was a pattern last year with some things, right? And so I would actually, I said less when the Saints won against Green Bay on a neutral field, even though that's like, that's a clear-cut sign. Why? Well, we saw what happened with Carolina week 2. You don't crown people the best in week 1 or week 2. What you do is you see what happens throughout the whole season. One thing that, I'm interested in with Raiders is, do they look tired? Do they look like they just, they're doing anything to like try and cover gaps when they're exposed? At what point do the Raiders feel like, they're doing a little too much in a losing streak to try and fix some of the holes that there should be? Like, yes, it's great to win, and we know that. But what happens in a loss? Like, what happens in a close loss even? I mean, we saw with the Washington football team and the Giants this past Thursday night. It was, what are the Giants look like ass because they lost. They did all the things that you don't do to win a game. And that's what I'm interested in seeing. When they lose 2 in a row, what happens after that?
That's fair. Speaking of, just like we got to the Giants, I mean, they just look absolutely terrible. It ain't really too much to talk about the Giants. We know they suck. The Giants fans know they suck. Everybody pretty much know they're terrible. Washington football team, we still gotta see how they do against the real teams. I mean, they beat their opponent, the Giants. So, I mean, it ain't too much to talk about on that end. But you also mentioned the Panthers, who have been looking good. And, looking at their numbers on defense are the best in the league right now. How you feel about them past couple weeks?
Yeah, this is I gotta say, all the surprises so far of all the teams, I think this one really surprises me because I know we even went like looking at the draft needs and said, yeah, they pretty much need everything except running back. And I think maybe middle linebacker, but
right.
The way they've come out so far, I thought the Jets were going to be a quality team. And then they took care of New Orleans like that. Like, first off, Jameis Winston usually puts numbers up. That's one thing I'll always give credit to Jameis Winston on. He didn't get anything. The running game didn't do anything. And that left the Saints defense basically exposed.
Right.
And it is a shock that we're saying, like, the Thursday night game between them and the Texans, we thought, oh God, this is the game of the week we're going to bail on. It's like, no, we're kind of excited to see this game, to see like if they can go 3-0 to end September like this, and to see how Sam Darnold does. And I want to ask you, does this actually highlight, the whole thing with Sam Darnold in particular? The Panthers have more weapons than the Jets, but not by much. But we're seeing how much now Darnold has breathing room finally. And it's like, can we kind of think the same about Zach Wilson, or is it, again, too early? It's 2 weeks into the season. Do we actually say at some point, no, it wasn't Sam Darnold. It was the fact that he had nothing, and Adam Gase was an idiot in New York. I mean, what would you say about this?
Yeah, I think it pretty much confirms everything that I think about the Jets, and that they're just downright terrible as a franchise, as a team. And like you said, when they had Adam Gase, that definitely didn't do Sam Darnold no type of favors like whatsoever. Like absolutely terrible. Now we're seeing him, compete for a franchise that has a little bit of weapons around him. And he's putting in work against, the Saints. I mean, like you said, Saints, I mean, their defense. Saints been on for their defense past couple of years, putting in work. Week one, who did they face week one?
Now they play Green Bay. That's like Aaron Rodgers' worst game.
The Panthers played week one.
Oh, they played the Jets.
Well, I think they didn't do the Jets. But, Sam Darnold getting that revenge on his old team, throwing it down. I mean, maybe, is this his development there in New York? And now that he's in Carolina, maybe they're playing to his strength. I mean, so far it definitely looks like it. Like you said, we're only 2 weeks in. We got to see what keeps happening.
So keeping in mind how bad the Jets are, you got the 0-2 teams. You got what, 6 or 7 of them? Who is the worst team in the NFL to you?
The Giants, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, New York Giants. Terrible. Disgrace.
All right. Why would you say the Giants? This actually intrigues me.
But it's not only just the fact that they're just a bad team, but you add on the fact that they're bad in their execution. They make mistakes when they just shouldn't be making mistakes at all. Like, that touchdown pass to Shepard where he dropped in the end zone. It's like, come on, bro. The few chances you do have to lose a game, you can't even execute on that. And then you just look at their history the past 2 to 3 years. They've been having a worse record in the entire league, and they just continuing that trend. And when you look at a bad team, you think, okay, what's the high spots for this team, right? You can name about 2, 3, or 4. The only high spot for this team, you got to say Saquon Barkley, and he's not even been able to get up to a good start late. So if your highlight not even being able to compete at their good level, what do you really have to look forward to?
I would, kind of say they're a top 3 team. You can convince me of that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 worst teams in the NFL.
It's a few.
Everyone's going to say the Jets and the Jaguars, but I think one nullifying effect is you got rookie quarterbacks and rookie coaches. Yeah. Hey, come on. It's 2 games then. I'll tell you, to me, it ain't the Giants. It's the Falcons. After everything I've seen these past 2 weeks, now this is, Arthur Smith is a new coach. I know he's a new coach. But this is Atlanta's past 2 weeks. You ready for this? The worst loss in week 1 to an opponent that most people thought they were going to beat.
Eagles, yeah.
Week 2, Tom Brady throws 5 touchdowns against you. And as soon as you get anywhere close to bridging a double-digit lead, Matt Ryan threw 2 pick sixes to the same guy. I don't know how you get any worse than that. Like, there's no defense, obviously, because they average 30 points given up again on that defense. And the thing is, the quarterbacks are on polar different ends. It was either Jalen Hurts or Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can't play a mobile QB. You can't play a stationary QB. You can't play the run. You can't cover.
Can't believe
It doesn't matter who the yeah, like you can't do anything. And Matt Ryan, who's supposed to be your best player, has thrown at least 3 picks, at least in what, one game? Like Matt, what you said. I mean, okay, if we're going off the positives here for the Falcons, well, it ain't special teams because they cut their punter after Sunday. Your defense has given up 32 points a game minimum.
Horrendous.
And so that leaves your offense. And Matt Ryan putting up garbage number stats in games where you're getting blown out by 20. Your running back is, I don't know, Kyle Pitts isn't showing up half the time, like during these plays. Oh, by the way, you traded Julio Jones, so your best wide receiver is Calvin Ridley. I don't think you're going far with that. The only saving grace with the Giants, to me, is the fact that NFC East is trash. You know the NFC South is not trash.
Very true.
So I gotta say, if I'm the Falcons, I don't care about Matt Ryan's career at this point. I'll trade him. I'm rebuilding in every possible way after these first 2 weeks. And I know it's like, it's easy to say, what do you take out of these first 2 weeks that, maybe it'll get better. And you know what? It may. Let's be honest. Those 2 things I've talked about these first 2 weeks, that is absolutely something we haven't even seen with the Jags and the Jets yet. And people are saying they're awful already.
Nah, see, though, that's different, though, because just like my point with the Giants, how they consistently not had one of the worst records in the league for the past couple of years, the Falcons have consistently been getting banged on week after week for the past couple seasons. I'm be honest, they gonna need a complete culture change for their squad.
And they need a complete overhaul.
When I say that, I mean like every little increment that was left from that Super Bowl needs to go. The franchise was broken ever since that happened.
Yeah, they need the Detroit Lions treatment. They need the regime to get rid of the regime.
Nobody
build another regime.
The Detroit Lions treatment, because they don't even. There's no treatment for whatever they got. Clearly.
No. Because Matt Patricia was so bad, it's going to be. We need a regime to replace that regime so that we can bring in a better regime next time. That's how bad it is going to be.
Like I said, there's no cure for whatever Detroit has. They're disease ridden, and I don't think they will ever be cured until maybe the next millennium. I don't know.
All right, so this actually brings us up, to that 0-2 team. Okay, so with the Lions, I'm conflicted because they're 0-2, right? But they lost to the 49ers. We all knew they were going to lose to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And I think we all knew they were going to lose to the Packers. We both said the Packers were going to win that game. So technically, the reason they're 0-2 is because basically they hit healthy playoff teams or teams that have been in the playoffs the last 2 years.
Right.
One thing that's really interested me is they at least have shown at least one half of playing really well.
They show life.
And I don't think it's just they're showing life, like they're showing actual fight, and that's something we don't see out of Detroit usually. So that actually brings me up. They're playing Baltimore this week. I think they go 0-3.
For sure.
And I'll write down you said the Ravens, by the way. So this brings me up to this. I mean, last year, Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what Justin Fields and the Bears is going to hold. Vikings, look, they literally could be 2-0, but they're 0-2.
Yeah.
Where do we put the Lions? Because it's easy to say that this team is ass. But if you show fight, at least like Houston is doing too, I think you got a better chance to make it until Thanksgiving weekend.
See, I feel like NFC North as a whole is a capable division for the most, for a decent part. Like you said, we got the Packers, probably, can make some noise. We got the Bears, who, somehow be finding their way into that last little playoff spot, consistently. Plus, with Justin Fields coming in, you never know. They might turn into a whole new team. Then you get the Vikings that's going toe to toe with some good squads. They just not taking that dub. And you got the Lions, who are showing some fight for about half a game for the other team to take control. So they all got something, a silver lining to them. And I think the NFC North with their teams, they just need, a couple fixture. What's the word I'm looking for? I just tried to make up a word. It's a couple, add-ons to maybe their game plan to give them over that hump of being able to consistently win games. I think it's not so much a personnel issue with any of them. It's more just game plan issue.
Yeah, I want to actually see like how this goes in the future when they actually face opponents that are a little bit easier.
Right.
Because they will play like the Lions will play the Bengals at some point. Maybe they can win. We don't know. The Vikings will probably have a couple easier opponents. Who knows? But I don't know what to make out of this NFC North division besides, the fact that it's not good so far.
Right. But they don't look like
Terrible.
they don't look terrible. They still look like they can come back. And like we said, it's only been 2 weeks.
All right. I'm gonna cover my team's game season so far. You can cover yours after.
For sure.
So Seattle looked great in Indy, trailed 3-0 early, but not. Oh, that Indy game was great. It was the Russell Wilson show, and then the defense really showed up when it mattered. Week 2, though, I'm mixed about this game because I wasn't actually pissed. Usually, I'm pissed about choked leads, but let's be honest.
It's a thriller, though.
As I said earlier, Derrick Henry is literally the human version of Juggernaut, and you give this guy any sort of positive movement and motion, and he is going to make you pay. And I felt so bad for the defensive line because they worked their asses off to contain him that first half and most of that third quarter. And then he was like, no, I'm just going to go outside and take on the corners and the safeties. And Quandre Diggs, I was shocked to see the size difference between him and Quandre Diggs. Like, Diggs is a bigger guy. He literally looks like he plays on special teams when you put both of them together. Jamal Adams was not going to risk injury, and Trey Flowers, well, that's a piece of shit player right there. It wasn't going to have any impact. And 23. So what I have to take away from that game is, if you're the offense, you should know that your defense is getting barreled through by one dude. And they did not step up when they needed to. I was very disappointed in that. I think that's where the addition of Bud Dupree really came to play. It had a positive effect. But if Russell Wilson wasn't throwing moonballs and the secondary was flopping around, they didn't look good. I mean, Chris Carson would have been a great option to run with. You got Gabe Jackson up front to help you with the run game too. Don't know what happened to that. Just going by the wayside, and you lead by double digits and you lose by that. I don't put it on the defense as much as I put it on the offense for not putting up more points. And I know that's very ludicrous because they put up 30. Let's be honest, when Henry got going, it was you couldn't rely on the defense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I'm just going on record and say Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league. And if you're not stopping him in the backfield, like you said, you're not stopping him. Once he gets that line of scrimmage, it's over with, bro. It's over with.
I legit use Seattle as the test for run defense because they've been so good at it for years. It's like if you break through that run defense, chances are you're pretty much elite.
Yeah, and the problem and the sad part is now you can't even stack that box no more because you want to blitz everybody? Whoop, Julio Jones. Oh, AJ Brown. It's like unless you got 2 Darrell Reeves like corners on your team to handle both of them dogs and send everybody in the middle while also containing having 2 great edge rushers on the outside. You're not gonna be able to, you just better hope Derrick Henry has a bad game. Better
See,
hope
that's why for this defense, I don't understand. There are capable corners and guys in the secondary. Trey Flowers is not one of them. I said in my blog, because he's by far and away lumped in the loser section. That man could not use his eyes if his life depended on it to read a play. And see, I feel like Seattle's defense knows this. They try to give him easy assignments, but here's the thing: as a starting true corner, no one cares about making things easy for you on the offensive side.
Yeah.
That's the truth. DJ Reed to me is 5'9", and if he was at least a couple inches taller, would be one of the best cornerbacks in the league, in my mind. Quentin Dunbar is on the free agency market. He played for that team last year. There's no reason why we should be having Trey Flowers as the number 2 corner, especially against a team that's either throwing Julio Jones or AJ Brown out there. There's no damn reason why. Like, I would prefer Marquise Blair, who is known for playing strong safety, would play corner 2. Because I know he can cover, and more importantly, I know he can hit after the dude's caught the ball.
Right.
Or play the run. Like, this isn't a hard concept. How the hell do you think Derrick Henry's going on the outside? You hesitate for a second and he goes in for a touchdown that's 60 yards plus.
Yeah, man. I feel you.
Oh, by the way, we're the first team in the NFC West to lose a game. I've had to hear about that all week.
Yeah, the NFC West. I was trying to tell you last season, man, there ain't gonna be no joke. It's not gonna be no joke.
All right. So do you think, of the 3 teams in the West, they're 2-0? It's not who loses next, but which one is the least sustainable?
The least sustainable is the other 9. I'm gonna be honest, bro. That's tough. Like, all those teams, like even though Seattle just lost, but the whole NFC West across the board, it's a nightmare, bro. It's a nightmare. Like, you gotta see them. Any of them teams you gotta see. It's like, okay, we got the 49ers, who just got an all-around balanced attack. You know they're gonna pretty much remain solid as long as they stay healthy, right? You got the Cardinals, who just got a lot of playmakers all over the field. And then you got Kyler Murray, who's coming into his own as a professional QB, and now he's just balling out. I mean, like, he's having what is a premier season for a quarterback. I mean, he's just playing out of his world right now. And you got the Rams, who got a nice, solid, stout defense, and got a lot of deep threats that can kill you over top with a quarterback with a strong arm. So I feel like all of these formulas, for the most part, is pretty much going to be sustainable. And I don't really see any of them really breaking for a consistent amount. I think this is one of those divisions that are going to have to be won in the division. Like, those divisional games are going to what's matter most when it comes to who's making the playoff, who's coming out of the West. It's going to come down to who wins these divisional games. And they all going to be dog fights.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say this off the bat. It's gonna be the Cardinals, because they started off well last year. They fizzled, and I know people want to say, "Oh, Kyler Murray's foot, Kyler Murray's hand, yada yada yada." Well, the fact of the matter is, Kyler Murray plays like what people think Lamar Jackson plays like, and I think the Cardinals have taken some steps forward, but again, it's early in the season. You barely beat the Vikings. You're down 20-7 early. I wouldn't be too happy about that.
But we just got done talking about the Vikings. They're not a terrible squad.
Yeah, they're not a terrible squad. I mean, like, Arizona held Minnesota to 13 points after that. So I think that's something, but you got to question, why do you go down 20-7 first quarter like that?
I mean,
Um,
teams get off to good starts, bro. I mean, no, I'm being real. Like a good start. Okay, that's one thing. Start off great, like we saw with the Browns against the Chiefs. Congratulations, you had a great first half. What Kobe Bryant say? You had a good game.
no, they had a good 3 quarters. It was that last quarter was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
Close the game out.
if you got a team that can finish, that's better than a team that knows how to start off
Very true.
good. I'm gonna take the team that can finish anytime over the team that know how to start off well. 'Cause starting off don't mean nothing.
49ers issues. They have lost 3 running backs already.
That's what I'm
Three
saying.
or four running backs. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be Green Bay probably, but I see at least concerns with 2 or 3 of the teams in the NFC West that could be a factor. Um, but like you said, it's gonna come down to the divisional race. Um, I think there'll be a couple sweeps. I also think some of these series, if they tie, I can see that too.
I can see some ties, man. Like, bro, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a doghouse. It's gonna come down to attrition and who wins those divisional games for sure, for sure. Because they all know each other so well. That's the thing. It ain't just been like this year. It's been like this the past couple of years, and each team not only been gotten better. Like I love to have a team in a division, but at the same time I hate to. Because the time you see a division opponent, it's like here we go.
It's weird because like most of the time with these division rivals, I'm gonna say the Cards and the Niners games, I'm like, yeah, we'll win. The Rams ones really concern me. But I feel like if you're a fan of any of those 4 teams, there's at least one team that gives you fits.
Yeah.
And that's how we're gonna go about it. um your team had better success. So, let's focus on the Bears a little bit.
Well,
Because there's a lot of good stuff. Um First 2 weeks of the season. I'll let you talk.
well, we had better success in week 2. Let's go back to week 1 real quick. Just terrible game. And when I say terrible, it's not even the fact that it was so much that we were getting outplayed so magnificently to the point where the other team just felt like they were so much better. We were shooting ourselves in the foot all game. Andy Dalton driving down the field, gets in the red zone, throws a pick. Secondary gives up 2 big plays, which was pretty much gave the Rams the lead the majority of the game. I mean, the only touchdown we able to score is off bringing in Justin Fields. At that point, it's like, what are we taking him out for? If you're the only one that can score and make positive plays. And yeah, but that Rams game, it was just big, shoot yourself in the foot session. I felt like on offense we was limited because Andy Dalton, it seemed like he just really don't have no plays for him that gets him throwing the ball downfield. It seemed like we're doing the same thing, throwing the ball short. So teams are gonna play up to the line of scrimmage. Now on the other end, against the Bengals, defense looked great. Khalil Mack finally get and Akam Hicks both made big plays throughout that game. Roquan Smith once again proving why he one of the best linebackers in the league. Jalen Johnson locking down in the secondary, and he pretty much locked down against the Rams too. He didn't really make too many big, mess ups in the Rams game. He's been solid for the full 2 weeks. And then yeah, overall that was a pretty solid game. Andy Dalton even looked well. Justin Fields even looked good. I mean, he should have had a touchdown. He had a perfect ball to Allen Robinson in the red zone. It bounced right through the chest. Made a rookie mistake getting that pick, but to follow that up, he showed poise. He showed he was able to ice the game right after. So he's already showing some good signs of the mental. Okay, if I make a mistake, game on the line, I can still pull through. He didn't fall into the well of continuously messing up. Continue the game was still there to be won. So that's a good sign. And he seems to begin to groove with some of the receivers. I feel like once you get that chemistry, our offense can get rolling a little bit better. Defense still a little bit shaky on messing up some big plays down the field. Still gotta miss that. I mean, Sean Gibson, Eddie Jackson, most teams, have that at safety. They're salivating. But right now, that left side, it ain't looking too well. We gotta fix that. But overall, I'm happy about where we at. Because I mean, I kind of expected us to lose to the Rams anyway. And seeing the way we did lose kind of makes me feel a little bit better just because I know it wasn't so much that we got outplayed. It was just the fact that we kept messing up. But it also scares me because, like, are we going to continuously keep shooting ourselves in the foot? And are we going to open up our offense a little bit more so teams can be a little bit scarier? But other upsides, David Montgomery is looking good, playing like one of the best backs in the league right now, looking real consistent. Um, Offensive line not looking as shaky as I thought they would. They not just allowing pressure every single play like last year it felt like we was doing. Our QBs, they got time in the pocket. And with a mobile QB be like Fields, you give him time. If he don't see his reads, he know how to make a move and get first. And he pretty solid at, getting down. So overall, I'm excited for what's to come. Week 3 against the Browns will be a real test for us. We got a real solid team going against us. We both 1-1. So I mean, I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot to take away from, let's say, even the first 2 games. Where it was like, all right, Andy Dalton had at least a drive where he had good chemistry with the offense.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think the fact that they really underestimated the Rams was like, damn. But I wonder, game 2, I think, is really important after you get beat like that, because you get to see how much you can come back and everything. And I thought the defense played well up until the last quarter. They had 3 picks in a row. Part of that, credit to Joe Burrow being that dumb, throwing right to him 3 straight times. But
Yeah.
do you feel, with the Fields transfer, him coming in, do you feel like the defense played a lot harder knowing that he was in, and was like, they felt inspired knowing that, we can actually play with heart because an actual quarterback is coming in? Or do you feel like, okay, well, the Bengals offense did great things the week before, Joe Burrow just got unlucky throwing 3 picks, including a pick 6, and that was it?
Well, I mean, we started off well, even with Andy Dalton on the defensive side. We pretty much had to shut down throughout most of the half. But I mean, yeah, I don't really think I saw too much of a change because, I mean, they did let go that big touchdown play after Fields came in. So I wouldn't say that they have more, heart going in on defense. I just think
Okay.
I just think they're kind of getting their groove back, trying to figure things out on that back end. I think front 7 wise we're straight. I don't really see too many issues, going there. Khalil Mack, Akam Hicks, as long as they're making their plays, everything else, Robert Quinn finally making plays, as long as that keeps happening, we straight. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Justin Fields brings a different type of spark, especially to that offense, because we need plays that can go down the field. We're not going to be able to win, 10, 11, 12 games, nickel and diamond, or not like that. Teams aren't scared of us like that. Justin Fields, I hope we can just add a little bit more fear to opposing defenses.
Yeah, and I think I probably, when I think about it now, it's like the defense could play a little more looser, kind of like
Right.
biscuit type.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think his best drive was at the end of the game. He knew how much was on the clock. He used that to his advantage. Bengals called the remaining timeouts. It was like, okay, this kid actually knows what he's doing. I want to see what he does in Cleveland. Which reminds me, do you want to do picks now? Do you think we've talked enough? What do you, expectations for week 3 at all?
I think we pretty much went in. So I mean, I got to pull it up here, everything. We can just go through You can go ahead and just let me know who you think taking the dub. Three. Let me scroll down. Well, first off, we already know we got the Panthers and the Texans tonight. Who you got that?
Dude,
I got Panthers.
I do too. I have your pick written.
Yeah, I think the Texans having Tyrod Taylor out, they don't have as much of a shot. But I don't know. Let's see what the young QB can do. But I'm gonna roll with the Panthers on that one. We got Panthers. Okay. Chargers Chiefs divisional matchup. Herbert Mahomes. 2, 3, the third meeting.
Yeah, it's the third meeting.
The third meeting. Who you got, man?
Oh, you know what? It's the second meeting. I
Second.
don't think Mahomes played the last game last year.
Right. So yeah, the second meeting, man. What you got?
I'm gonna say the Chargers, and I've been pretty consistent. I've said Chargers the first 3 weeks of the season so far.
Yeah.
But I think the Chargers have done enough even before they started playing zone to frustrate Mahomes. I get that was probably an off game for him, but they have been playing really hard. Brandon Staley's team looks good, and I really officiated. I don't know if you saw any of that. That was a terribly called game.
What, the last Chargers game?
Chargers Cowboys game. That was terrible.
I heard the Chargers get messed over.
I don't think they're gonna have a performance just like that again. I think it could be low scoring. I think the Chargers will use that motivation to probably win this week. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs in their own right are 1-1 also, but I think it's going to be close. It's a 50-50 game here to me.
Yeah, definitely 50-50 game. I'm going with the Chiefs just because of the sole fact. I think it's in their favor that they're coming off a loss to a big team, so they're gonna have more of a sense of urgency. And being that they've been battle tested way more than Chargers have a couple of years, they just gonna be that team that's gonna have the better urgency to pull up this victory, in my opinion. Plus, Tyreek Hill had a bad game last week. I expect them to have a bigger impact coming in week 3, get those numbers back up. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs and a close one on that.
It's still going to be a fun game regardless.
Yeah,
Both teams lost. You know they're going to want to win.
exactly. And they play each other well.
Oh yeah.
Next, we got the Cardinals and the Jaguars. I'm going with the Cardinals. I still think the Jaguars going through growing pains right now. Kyler Murray just looking unstoppable, bro. It's bad.
I know you've seen the meme about Urban Meyer. So
Alabama.
Urban Meyer. Yeah. How funny is it though that's Vic Fangio of all people to say Urban Meyer said this to him?
Right.
That every week is like playing Bama. And I saw the meme today saying like, yeah, this dude really went in the NFL thinking he'd play Purdue.
Yeah, I see that. That's crazy.
Now I'm going Cardinals too. I think the Cardinals, believe it or not, may be one of the ultimate winners of September in any division. If you go 3-0 this early, it's pretty good stuff.
Bears, Browns. The Browns, they looking fired up. But the boy Justin Fields about to make his debut. I think it's gonna be too much for him, man. I get the Bears squeezing one out over there in Cleveland. I think it's gonna be in Cleveland.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I got the Bears squeezing one out in Cleveland.
Yeah, we're gonna be on the opposite side here, Wes. I'm sorry. I think the good thing for the Bears is Fields is mobile. He'll be able to run around, but come on. Browns see a running attack every day in practice. OBJ may be back. That dual running threat is probably going to be the Bears' kryptonite. I got the Browns in this one.
Next up, we got Washington football team versus Buffalo Bills. I got the Bills. They seem to be back on track.
I think, everyone was saying last week that the the game between the Giants and the football team was going to be really low scoring. I think this one's going to be low scoring too because the Bills' offense has not performed well. But I would say of the better defenses, it has been Buffalo's defense, and I would actually lean Buffalo just for that. Like the running game is probably what's going to get Buffalo a win here.
Next up, we got the Colts Titans. Colts down on 2. I don't even know who they got starting QB next week.
Jake Eason.
And the Titans, I mean, they look like they finally got rolling against the Seahawks. I'm going Tennessee, man. Colts are not looking good right now. Not looking good at all.
Yeah, we're gonna have the same pick here. I think Jake Eason is going to be an interesting start, at least for them. When I was in Indy, they actually booed Carson Wentz and wanted to see Jake Eason at one point. I think, though, that the big takeaway is going to be how can Indy keep up punch for punch? Because this was last year's games, too, where they were like going back and forth on offense. And I don't think the Colts have enough on the defensive front to actually contain Henry. You got the Julio Jones option to add with A.J. Brown. I think, and more importantly, the confidence coming out of the home field, like it's Seattle's first home game, you won there.
Yeah.
But down double digits. That confidence, the Titans are going to look back and say that's our favorite game of the season. They're going to be on cloud 9.
Facts. Next up, interesting matchup. We got, for the first time in what feels like 20 years, Patriots versus Saints without no Tom Brady or Drew Brees at quarterback for either team. Who we got, man?
Yeah, don't you find the quarterback matchup to be hilarious? It's a dude we don't know if his LASIK fully worked last week, his LASIK surgery, and Mac Jones, who could be the best quarterback in this division.
Right.
This is crazy to me. I think both defenses are going to do really well. But I think Bill Belichick's getting all those players on defense back, neutralizing that Saints defense or Saints offense. I think that's going to be the key.
Yeah, well,
I got the Pats in this part.
This is a tough one for me to call, but I think I'm gonna go with the Patriots too, man. I think Bill Belichick, I heard a lot of ish being talked about him, and I think he's tired of it, bro. I think he's about to put together a winning season, and I think he's gonna start off by going 2-1 with the Saints. Oh man, you won't believe that. I guess we're gonna get our answers, Justin, next week. Falcons and Giants, whoever.
That's hilarious because that's the same week as the Bucks Patriots game.
Oh man, no, Falcons and Giants is this Sunday.
Oh, you're right.
So we can answer who the worst team. Well, sure. I guess I gotta keep hold to what I've been saying. I guess I got the Falcons.
Oh, so you got the Falcons then? I got the Giants in this one. This is absolutely hilarious. Okay, so if you have never listened to me on any of my shows, whether I was at Western, whether I was on my radio show with Wesley at times, I have picked games where there could be ties. And I looked at this game and I thought to myself, these teams are so bad, if it ends in a tie, I could see it.
So you're going with the tie?
No, I'm going with the Giants winning this game. But there have been times where it's so similar late in the season or middle where it's like, damn, I don't know.
It's crazy. We just got done. Man, Malcolm.
This man's saying the Falcons is going to win. That's hilarious.
Bro, I mean, you just was hilarious saying the Giants gonna win. They might both lose. After that,
if the game is canceled, I think that's a win for everyone.
Big facts. After that, we got Bengals, Steelers. I don't even know. I got the Steelers, man. I don't I really don't know. I'm just saying the team. I got the Steelers.
Okay, so it's not just me. Like when I was putting my picks together last night, I was like, I know this looks like improv, but this is what I'm going with for a week. This is my upset pick. I'm going with the Bengals over the Steelers.
If you call it an upset, I mean, well, I don't know. They ain't got TJ Watt.
Yeah, exactly. If they don't have TJ Watt, I think the offensive line could face, a little bit of relief. Here's something that I noticed last year, and I think the Bengals defense is going to exploit. Is they were one of these teams that was like, okay, well, if Ben's going to be throwing the ball out quick, we might as well just hit everyone. Like, just bring the pressure, man on man with these outside receivers, and go from there. And I think past the point, even if he decides, let me dump it off to Najee Harris, I think this is still a very close game regardless. I think the Bengals could actually steal a win here and go 2-1.
I think they can steal one too because Jamar Chase has been scoring touchdowns every single week. He's figured out how to catch the ball. I mean, it's close. Do I want to change my? I'm gonna still stay with the Steelers though. I'm gonna just stay with them because I really don't know. Next week, I already let you know. Ravens, Lions. I got the Ravens. I just think the Lions got.
I wrote that one down. I didn't have to question that one.
They gonna have to go do it one more time. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Bad September for Dan Campbell, but hey, that's what happens sometimes.
Jets and Broncos next. I got the Broncos, man. Teddy Bridgewater balling out right now. And the Jets, they looking young.
All right. So here's my question to you involving Denver. 2-0. They've beaten two easy teams. They'll probably beat the Jets on Sunday. Do we think Denver's still legit? Because Von Miller balled out in both weeks 1 and 2. That team is fully healthy. Like, is their first challenge going to be like the whole month of October, or?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see what Denver is really about until October. Because I mean, when you got Von Miller in the squad, you got a chance against anybody. Let's be honest. And plus, they actually believe in Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater know how to win. People forget, man. That stint he had with the Saints, how good he was at Louisville before he got hurt in Minnesota. Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, if he could play a full season majority of the time, we might be talking about him top 10 quarterback in the league. So,
Oh, I think he is, because a lot of these quarterbacks aren't developed. He's been stable. He's been steady. Most importantly, I hate how people keep saying Jerry Jeudy's the best receiver, the most important player on this offense. It is not. It is Courtland Sutton, and he is back.
Courtland Sutton too.
Courtland Sutton is one of the most stable wide receivers the Broncos have had in years since Demaryius Thomas. So don't get that messed up. I think personally, Broncos are going to be a playoff team. Because they started off fast with 3 wins right out of the gate. I know October and December are probably going to be like the toughest stretches for them, but come on.
There's a lot of room in the playoffs now with these 17 games and that extra team. So you might be right. Dolphins, Raiders. You know what?
Oh, you need an upset pick of the week, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the Raiders hit a little skid in the road and the Dolphins take it.
Okay, so that's going to be your upset of the week. I'm saying the Dolphins are going to win this one too. I think there's something about the Dolphins defense. A lot of people overlook. Yeah, all right, they look like crap against the Bills, but let's be honest. That offense probably wasn't going to do much in the first place once Tua went down early. And I think the fact that Brian Flores is a really good coach. We kind of have overlooked that this team, yeah, okay, they're 1-1 with a really tight victory on opening day against New England. No, this guy can actually coach. That's the thing. So I could see, like, with no Josh Jacobs again, the Dolphins really go after Derek Carr and, they get a tight win that way.
Yeah. Next up, we got probably game of the week, Bucks and the Rams. 2 hot teams right now. 2 teams looking hot. You got Cooper Kupp balling out, torching dudes. You got Rob Gronkowski looking like Rob Gronkowski from 2011. Man, what's cooking, Justin? Who you looking at, man?
All right. So I think from last year's matchup, the main thing that we got to keep in mind is these, the big story is going to be these QBs, these wide receivers, the cornerbacks. But what does every pivotal game come down to, Wes? What does it come down to?
Oh, ain't neither one of these defenses no joke.
Offensive lines versus defensive lines.
Oh, that's facts, yeah.
And I think Tampa kind of knew and figured out some things last year when they lost to the Rams. I think that was when the adjustment was made after that game. Tom Brady said enough. They tightened up on the offensive line. I think we're going to see like one of the best games from the offensive line of the Buccaneers. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, there's so much talent on Tampa's defensive front. I actually believe to some degree, if this is a low-scoring game because of the defensive fronts just wreaking havoc on everyone, that's a possibility. I think the Bucs' defensive line does the most damage. I think more than anything, what we saw from Todd Bowles last season, he had some of the league's best offenses, could be on display here. And I'm going with Tampa Bay. I know they just came off of like beating Atlanta and everything, but I think they have enough to actually beat LA.
You know what? I got Tampa Bay in a must-see game. I see it being a game decided by 3 points or less. I think it's going to be
I could see that.
I think, we're going to see plays made on both defenses, see big plays on offense from both sides. I think it's going to be one of them classic games that come down to the wire. And I see the Bucs having a little bit better clock management and Brady leading one of them classic game-winning drives for the squad, and they take it. And then next up, we got Hawks and the Vikings. Seahawks and the Vikings.
This is a worrisome game.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense is better than it was last year, but Dalvin Cook really gashes us again this year. In Minnesota, I'm gonna be concerned. I think this is a close game. This is gonna be one of those heart attack games early in the season that we have. I think we pull out the win though.
I think it's gonna be the same. Yeah, I'm rolling with the Seahawks. I think they know how crucial it is to stay afloat in the NFC West. Going against an 0-2 team, I think they're going to try to repeat, what the Cardinals did, take a win. But the Vikings are going to be on desperation mode. It's not a pick I'm confident in, but that's Seattle.
Yeah, I think the Vikings last year when they played Seattle, and hilariously, they were 0-2 then too. It was, play this game desperately, and they did all the right things. They just couldn't win at the very end and close things out. And I wonder, Mike Zimmer sadly is on the hot seat because a missed field goal and that an overtime loss. I mean, the Vikings could easily be 1-0-1, 2-0, but they're 0-2. And I feel like it's very unfair if this is another close loss again to say, oh, this is on Mike Zimmer, when reality is that's your whole month of September. You just got to wipe that slate clean by October.
Right. Next up, we got the Packers and the 49ers.
And this is no contest, man.
It's a heavyweight matchup, but I'm going to say this. Green Bay, I think, got a glass chin. I got the 49ers winning over Green Bay.
People really don't understand. Like, whenever Aaron Rodgers plays San Francisco, 90% of the time, he gets his ass beat. Like, it didn't matter if it was Colin Kaepernick. It didn't matter if it was Javon Kinlaw in the championship game or Tevin Coleman. Like, this team with that defense,
they have this number.
they don't just have his number. Like that defense is going to make Aaron cry all night, and they struggled against the Lions for a half.
Exactly. Like Packers, they already not looking good. And the 49ers, like you said, for the most part, they thrashed Rodgers. So I got the 49ers. And then they ended up off Monday night game. We got divisional game. We got Fly Eagles Fly going against them boys.
Them boys.
Them boys. I'll let you pick first. I'll pick first last time.
First off, we're all going to win watching Peyton and Eli on Monday night. That to me,
bro.
First off, they're absolutely hilarious, but I have learned more actually watching that sportscast in the two games than I have like in the past year.
Bro, they so can start making old QBs, not Troy Aikman, but old quarterbacks. Comment on these games, bro. Tony Romo is awesome. The Mannings are awesome. I'm pretty sure Drew Brees already being funny, making fun of himself. I mean, old QB.
No, that man grew hair. That man has hair plugs.
And get Philip Rivers in there. I know he'd be hilarious.
He would be because he don't swear.
He'd be funny. They need to get Philip Rivers in one of these slots. Announce the Chargers game for some. But did you say who you thought was gonna win?
No, I haven't. Okay, so we're all gonna win watching Peyton and Eli. DeMarcus Lawrence is gonna be out until November with a broken foot. Or something like that. So that right off the bat kind of shows me that if Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense is going to ball out, it has to be this game. You've got to do it early. You've got to get the lead over Dallas. Yes, I know. Wide receivers Dallas has is as good, if not better, than the ones on Tampa Bay. But
for real,
the Eagles defense, not bad for the moment. Like they're pretty good. They're pretty good. This is going to be their first real test, but I got the Eagles in this one.
Who's home for this game?
Is it Dallas? Yeah, I think it's Dallas.
I think Dallas. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the home team. I'm gonna just roll with the home. I'm being house for that game. I got Dallas squeaking out a win. Think about Dallas. They don't win games dominantly. They don't win games dominantly. They win them at the last minute, or they lose a close game either trying to fight back, or they lose at the last minute.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, those are our picks for the week, people. I mean, just my final thoughts before we end the show. I was telling Justin this the other day, I think we're in for one of the best NFL seasons ever. I know we complained about the extra game and the more teams in the playoffs, but I think this has made the league even deeper than it's ever been. I just think it's so many good teams. We've already had some classic games the past couple of weeks already. Mainly the primetime games. I just think we're in for an exciting season, and whoever wins the Super Bowl this year is really gonna earn that joint because it's gonna be hard getting there. I'm telling you, it's gonna be real hard getting there. Justin.
It's funny because like I can, we're saying this now, and by the time February comes around, it's like, oh, it's going to be rigged for this.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I've been really appreciative of the gameplay because it's like week 1, you didn't know what was going to happen, and then week 2, they kind of flipped the script a bit. And it's like, okay, we got Thursday night game that shows a lot of potential. Monday night's game actually looks really good. It's the Sunday night game where it's like, despite the playoff contenders, that's the one we're not confident on. I think the season's going to continue to get better too. I think that's when you're going to start to see the defenses ball out, show up more. You're going to see a lot more of these rookie quarterbacks, like what we really think of them. But most importantly, when we were picking teams at the beginning of the year, it was hard And we didn't think like, were they going to be too good? Were they going to be, bad? And there's this tier. And for the first time, I think because I told someone, it's kind of because there's that focus on offensive lines more. It's like now you're starting to see with that investment in the offensive lines, a lot of these teams look a lot better. And it's very hard to choose like who's going to come out on top. I think we're going to have a lot of close games this week 3.
No, we definitely are, man. I think it's gonna be pretty much a lot of close games throughout most of the season where we look at some nail biters. But yeah, man, that's all I really got for today. Everybody, make sure you stay tuned to First Degree Sports Pro Talk. Expect some updates on boxing, MMA this week. We got some good events coming up, and here, on the podcast, we're gonna keep y'all updated with the weekly NFL news. JD Sports Corner. Make sure you keep up with him as far as NBA, hockey, WNBA updates. He got your back on all that. He gonna make sure stay strapped with the knowledge on those ends throughout the season. Don't worry, we ain't forgot about the other sports. We just know that right now the NFL is what's popping, and the podcast is mainly gonna be on pretty much the weekly reviews and the predictions. But we still gonna give y'all extra content, on the other end about all the other sports going on and coming up.
Yeah, I mean, fall is here, and what does that mean? Basketball is coming up, hockey is coming up. My NHL Western Conference picks are up. There are a couple of surprises in there. I think some of these fan bases are going to be ecstatic to see what I think of some of these teams that could sneak into the playoffs. Eastern Conference should be coming up within the next few days. And probably after this video is published and put up. Basketball, that because basketball comes after hockey, that's going to be the next focus I'll be writing on. Wes and I will break down some things probably next week. And like Wes said, there's a lot of stuff going on, boxing, MMA right now. There's just a lot of fun stuff going on. And this was basically the NFL show that we were trying to put together.
For sure. Yeah, man. Thanks y'all for coming out. Thank y'all for watching. Hope everybody watching this has a blessed day. I'm Wes. That's Justin. We're signing out. Peace.